started going to the gym late at night during my senior year in college. It was the only time the place wasn't packed, and I liked having the space to myself. No waiting for machines, no awkward small talk, just me and my headphones. There was a 24-hour fitness center a few blocks from my apartment. Clean, modern, always empty after 11 p.m. It had big glass windows facing the street and bright overhead lights that made it feel safer than it probably was. One Thursday night, around 11:30, I decided to go in for a quick workout. I had a stressful week and figured lifting for an hour might help me sleep. I grabbed my bag, threw on a hoodie, and walked down. The front desk was empty, which wasn't unusual at that hour. You just scanned your key fob and went right in. The place was completely silent except for the low hum of the ventilation system. I headed toward the free weights in the back and started warming up. There was no one else there, not in the cardio section, not on the mats, nowhere. I actually liked it that way. I was about 20 minutes in when the lights flickered. Just for a second, then came back on. I paused my music and looked around, expecting to see someone else react. But I was still alone. Figured it was just a glitch. But then, about 10 minutes later, the lights went out completely. Just snap, everything went black. I froze. My first thought was that maybe there was a power outage in the area, but the emergency lights should have kicked on. They didn't. It was pitch dark. I pulled out my phone and turned on the flashlight, shining it toward the hallway that led to the bathrooms and the front desk. That's when I noticed something weird. The silence. The hum of the vents had stopped. No music, no AC, nothing. I started walking slowly toward the front, phone light leading the way. That's when I heard something behind me. Weights shifting. Not dropping, just the sound of metal plates clinking together like someone was picking them up slowly and setting them back down. I turned around, light scanning the benches and racks. No one was there. Nothing had moved. But the sound had definitely come from that side of the room. I called out, asking if anyone was there. My voice sounded way too loud in the dark. No answer. I kept walking, trying to stay calm, heading toward the exit. When I reached the glass doors, I saw the streetlights were still on outside. So it wasn't a citywide outage, it was just the gym. That's when I noticed something else. The door wouldn't open. The electronic lock was dead, and the manual override, there wasn't one. I tried my phone to call the gym's emergency line, but I had no service. Not even one bar. I turned the flashlight off and on again, hoping maybe that would somehow fix things. Don't ask why, I was panicking. But when I turned it off, something caught my eye in the reflection on the glass. There was someone standing in the far corner of the gym. I hadn't seen them earlier. They weren't there when the lights went out. But now there was a figure, just standing, completely still. They weren't facing me, just slightly turned away. Head down. I froze. I whispered out again, asking if they were okay. No answer. My stomach dropped when they slowly turned to face me. I couldn't make out any features, just a dark hoodie, baggy pants, and their hands hanging down by their sides. I backed up, reaching for my phone again, but the screen had gone black. Completely unresponsive. The figure took one slow step forward, then another. They weren't running, just walking. But each step echoed louder than it should have, like they weren't walking on rubber floors, like it was concrete. I ran toward the back hallway, past the lockers and into the women's changing room. I slammed the door shut behind me and backed into a corner. Total darkness. I tried breathing through it, tried to focus, but then I heard it. The sound of the gym door opening. Not the main entrance, the heavy door that led from the weight room into the hallway. Then slow footsteps, getting closer. I backed further into the corner, hiding between two lockers. The footsteps came into the changing room. Whoever it was, they weren't speaking, just breathing. slow, raspy breaths that sounded too close, too heavy. I clutched my phone, even though it still wouldn't turn on. Then I remembered my keys. I had a small flashlight attached. I fumbled with them, turned it on, and pointed it around the room. Empty. No one there. But the door was now open. I didn't wait to see if they came back. I bolted out of the changing room, down the hall, and into the emergency exit near the back. It had a push bar. Thank God it wasn't electric. The door opened and I ran out into the alley behind the gym. Everything was normal outside. Street lights, a car passing by, people walking down the sidewalk like nothing had happened. I turned around, looked up at the gym windows. The lights were back on. Through the glass, I could see the weight room, and it was empty. No one inside. I never got a clear look at who that person was. I still don't know if they were real or if something else was going on that night. Maybe a glitch in the power, maybe someone messing with me. But I never went back to that gym again. And I never work out alone at night anymore. It was a little past midnight when I decided to hit the gym. I had just gotten off a double shift at the hospital. I was tired but wired, too much coffee and too much adrenaline. Sometimes when I couldn't sleep, I'd head to the small 24-hour gym near my apartment to work off the edge. It was quiet, usually empty that late, and I liked having the space to myself. I swiped in with my key fob and walked into the dimly lit front area. There was no one behind the desk, which was normal at that hour. The place had cameras, and you needed a pass to even get inside, so I never felt unsafe. That night, I went straight for the treadmill. I set my playlist, hit start, and just zoned out. Maybe 20 minutes in, I noticed movement out of the corner of my eye. Someone was at the front entrance, outside, knocking on the glass. It was a guy I didn't recognize. Early 30s, maybe. Black hoodie, jeans. He was waving at me through the glass like he wanted to get my attention. I paused the treadmill and pulled out my earbuds. I walked a little closer to the front, keeping a good distance, and asked if he was okay. He said he left his gym pass at home and was locked out. He said he just needed to grab something from his locker real quick. I told him I didn't think I could let him in without a key fob. He laughed and said it was fine, that he came there all the time and it would only take a second. Said his name was Ryan. The name didn't mean anything to me. I hesitated. Something about the way he kept glancing around behind him made me uneasy. Then he smiled, and I felt it. That kind of smile that doesn't match the eyes. It was off. I told him I couldn't help and walked back toward the treadmill, trying to shake the weird feeling. But the knocking started again. Louder this time. I looked back, and he was still there, staring in, his smile gone now, just staring. I pulled out my phone to call the gym's after-hours line, just to report it in case they had someone to handle it. While the phone was ringing, I heard a loud bang. The guy was now pounding on the glass with both fists. I froze. He was shouting something, but I couldn't hear it clearly through the glass. The front desk line went to voicemail. I hung up. I walked toward the back exit near the locker rooms, deciding to leave through there and head straight to my car. I could call someone once I was outside. I passed through the wait area, heart racing, and that's when I heard the door buzz. The front door. I turned around slowly. He was inside. I don't know how. Maybe someone else had swiped in, or maybe he waited for a member to walk in and tailgated behind. But he was in the building now, walking toward me. I backed away, told him to stop, asked how he got inside. He smiled again and said he told me it would only take a second. Then he stepped closer. Too close. He asked if I wanted to hang out, said I looked cute, said we could go somewhere after my workout, or maybe I could show him around the locker rooms. I told him to back off, that I wasn't interested. But he didn't. He asked if I was there alone. asked if anyone was expecting me soon. I kept backing away, gripping my phone tight in one hand and the key fob in the other. My heart was pounding in my ears. He stepped even closer and said if I let him come over, he'd give me a free personal training session. That's when I raised my voice. Told him I was calling the police. He laughed and said I was overreacting, that he was just being friendly. Then he reached out and touched my arm, tried to lean in like he was going to kiss me. I shoved him back and ran toward the emergency exit, pushed it open, and bolted out into the parking lot. I didn't stop running until I reached my car. I jumped in, locked the doors, and called 911. I stayed on the line until the cops arrived, which wasn't long. But by the time they searched the gym, he was gone. They looked at the security footage, but apparently the cameras had glitched out during the time he got in. Nothing had been recorded. The next day, I checked with the gym management. They said no one named Ryan had a membership, and none of their regulars matched the guy I described. I never went back to that gym again. And now I never work out late at night. It was a rainy Thursday night, a little past 11 p.m., when I decided to squeeze in a quick workout. The gym I go to is open 24/7, and I like going late because it's usually empty. That night, there was just one other person, a guy lifting in the free weight section. I'd never seen him before, but I didn't think much of it. He didn't look out of place. I put in my earbuds and headed to the squat rack. I was halfway through my second set when I noticed he kept glancing over. Not in a casual way, more like staring. Every time I looked up, he quickly looked away. I tried to ignore it, thinking maybe I was just being paranoid. But then he walked over and stood a few feet away, just watching me between my sets. Not saying anything, just standing there. I asked if he needed the rack or something, but he said no. Just watching. His voice was flat. No emotion. It creeped me out. I grabbed my towel and moved to a different area of the gym. I thought that would be enough, but minutes later, he followed again. This time, he stood even closer. He asked if I usually came alone, if I lived nearby, if anyone was waiting for me. I gave short answers, trying not to let him know I was getting nervous, but something about him just felt off. His questions were weird. The way he kept inching closer, like he was trying to corner me. I told him I was done for the night and made a move toward the locker room to grab my stuff. He followed me in. That's when I had enough. I turned around and told him to leave me alone. I said I was going to call security. His face didn't change. He just stared, then smiled slightly. Then he walked out. I waited a minute, grabbed my things, and left through the side exit. As I walked toward my car, I looked around the lot. I didn't see him anywhere. But when I got in and turned on my headlights, he was standing at the far corner of the lot, just outside the glow of the lights, watching. I locked the doors, reversed, and drove off fast. The next day, I asked the front desk who he was. They said no one else had scanned in during my time there. No record of a guest pass. No camera footage from the locker room either, only the main floor. No one knew who he was, or how he even got in. I started going during the day after that, but for the next few nights, every time I left the gym late, even when I parked on the other side, I'd spot him somewhere in the distance, leaning against a wall, sitting in a car with the engine running, always watching, always alone. Then after the fourth night, he stopped showing up, or maybe he just found a different place to wait.